Welcome to the Glenn Beck program, live in California all this week. It's a beautiful state. It's kind of a shame that the progressives are running it into the ground. Well, kind of a shame. You need to watch and learn from their mistakes here in California, because the country is following the same progressive path, and it ain't going to end well, gang. We also need to read and learn history. Tonight, we're going to do that. Uncover another progressive lie. Is taxing the wealthiest 1% not evil after all? Find out next. Come on. Hello, America. Since I'm on the West Coast, aloha. The New York Times, wait a minute, before I get into this, I want to remind you that even though I'm in Los Angeles, California, and this one doesn't work at all, this is a prop phone. Harry is, can you show Harry, please? Harry is working hard. Operators are standing by. Harry's watching Star Wars. Okay, not what I was hoping for, but if that phone rings, the White House wants to correct anything that we say on this program, Harry will turn the sound down, speak Wookiee right directly into the phone, and we'll take it from there. Now, let me go to the New York Times. The New York Times is doing their best to cover the spending tracks left by President Obama. The op-ed titled, "The Truth About the Deficit," could, I believe, win the gold medal in mental gymnastics. They'll bend, twist, and contort all of the facts into a pretty little, grimy little ball of blame Bush. I showed you yesterday that George W. Bush was part of the problem, a big part. But Obama is now pressing the accelerator, and time is running out for the Republic. The Times claims that the deficit is a result of cutting taxes on the wealthy. And they offer this stern warning to us, little people. The last thing the government should do is slash spending. Wow. I wish I wasn't such a little person and I could understand that. History tells us taxing the rich and slashing government spending are both progressive lies. But you have to know history. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, that Glenn Beck, he's just a big dumb dummy. Well, maybe I am. You could disagree with me all you want. But I read a lot. I read a lot of in-depth history. And I could send you to Woodrow Wilson and the Roots of Modern Liberalism. I could do it, but I don't recommend it. It'll make eyes bleed. But I told you yesterday, this is a beginner's book of history. It is a gateway into the history that nobody is teaching. And this is just part of the progressive part of it. This is from Columbus to the World Trade Center. If you just read just this part on the progressive history of America, you'll learn more than you've ever learned in any school ever. Last night I mentioned this book. I got off the air. It was like 58,000 in Amazon.com. I got off the air last night. It was #1 on Amazon.com. It's still #1 on Amazon.com. Good. Please, please read it. Now, I got to warn you, I can't believe I'm going here, but please don't tune out. Please don't. I have candy for you afterwards. I have some really good candy for you. I have to talk to you a little bit about President Harding and President Coolidge. I could feel people going, remote control. Andrew Mellon, he was the Timothy Geithner, you know, bring on the picture of the old guy. He was the Timothy Geithner without the whole TurboTax scandal. He did a study in 1921 on the wealthier classes, and he was figuring out that they were paying less and less as the taxes that the government was raising the rates on the rich. They kept raising them over and over again, and the wealthy were paying less and less. Nobody could figure it out. He found out that higher taxes actually drove the money underground. I can put this into context so you can understand it. Yesterday, I told you the report on Oprah Winfrey. Show her mansion here. It's beautiful. It's in Montecito, California. She would like to live there a lot. I mean, who wouldn't? She doesn't live there a lot because California has one of the highest progressive tax rates on people making over $1 million, and I'm pretty sure she makes over $1 million a year. So she actually has her staff monitor the number of days that she stays at her home there in order to avoid being considered a full-time resident of California and thus avoid paying the punishment in taxes. That almost sounds like Oprah Winfrey isn't paying her fair share. Another example, 1969, Ireland introduced a tax-exempt status for artists when they decided in 2006 to put a cap on that tax break, 250,000 euros. Bono and a bunch of other of these dope-smoking celebrities who champion progressive politicians promptly moved UK's business, or U2's business, over to the Netherlands so they didn't have to worry about those taxes. That's how the money goes underground, just like Mellon found in the 1920s. You're not doing that, but the uber rich are. They're going to save money any way they can. And as long as it's legal, I don't blame them. It drives me nuts, however, when I see people like Oprah campaigning for a guy who wants more taxes, wants people to pay more of their fair share, and then she doesn't want to pay the taxes. I mean, Oprah, who do you think he was talking about when he says, we got to go after the wealthiest 1%? You. Do your patriotic duty like the vice president says you should. How about this fatso? And I know I'm not one to talk, but Michael Moore. You know, Michael Moore, I thought the rich don't pay their fair share. Why did Michael Moore apply for and receive a tax credit from the state of Michigan, of all places, for the shooting of his latest film there? Michael, why are you so greedy? Soaking the rich never works. They move their money, as California and New Jersey are finding out. They leave the state. New Jersey, in 4 years, has lost $70 billion in wealth. They leave. In the 1920s, Mellon found that the rich tended to invest abroad rather than build new factories and mills in the United States and pay the 73% income tax from those investments. 73%. Yeah. But it didn't start that way. No. When progressive Woodrow Wilson introduced the, and I would like to emphasize this for all of you who think that you're a progressive, when Woodrow Wilson introduced the progressive income tax in 1913, the 16th Amendment had to be passed because income taxes were unconstitutional. So how did reformers manage to get it passed? How did the progressives get the income tax passed? Who would do that? Well, they gave a couple of lies. They said taxes are going to be extremely low. Most will not pay any tax ever. The richest of the rich, the evil ones, will only pay 7% forever. The average American will only pay 1% forever. Yeah. Well, if forever meant about 6 years, he was right. By the end of his term, the lowest tax bracket was now paying 4%. And the highest tax bracket was now paying 73%. How sweet is that? President Harding, he was the one that replaced Wilson after everybody in America went, okay, all right, that was really bad. Maybe we should go in another direction. Well, Harding decided to listen to Mellon. And from 1921 to 1926, Congress worked to reduce the top tax rates. He eventually got this down to 25%. Not 7, but 25. See? Progress. The result? Tax revenues from the wealthiest taxpayers tripled. And this is where progressives always get slippery. Because they're like, well, you got to get that money from them. No. It's called the Laffer curve. The higher the income tax, the less you pay. It works the same way over and over again. So, tripled by cutting it. And also something else happened. The national debt dropped from $24 billion to $18 billion. Then Calvin Coolidge came in. I don't know a lot about Calvin Coolidge yet. I'm looking into him. He might be my favorite president so far. I like the guy. He assumed the presidency after Harding dropped dead, I think of a heart attack. Well, he continued with a small government, lower tax strategy. He talked about not building up the weak by pulling down the strong, not being in a hurry to legislate new laws, and cutting the size of government. Coolidge and Harding decreased the real per capita federal expenditures, the size of the government, from $170 per year in 1920 to $70 in 1924. These policies, along with fostering the mentality of self-reliance, the opposite of what the progressives had been preaching in the previous 20 years, and the opposite of what progressives teach now. They're not saying be self-reliant. They're saying too big to fail. You can't make it without the government safety nets. Stand on your own 2 feet, America.